Sito,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
welcome to the Senate Oversight Committee. You have 3 minutes.
So my job was to be stationed at the TCF Center. I was in the middle of the room near the duplicate ballots. There's a table full of duplicate ballots. Throughout the whole night, I witnessed theft of duplicate ballots. My job was to follow them back to their tables of the counting boards, and where they would just take stashes of ballots, 4 or 5 ballots, take them to the table. I would stand there for 4 or 5 minutes. They wouldn't make any duplicates, never followed any duplicate procedures. They stashed them under their boxes, never put them in the bins. I couldn't do much about it, just write incident reports about it, which are documented. So, and then we had a new shipment announcement by Mr. Baxter at 4:30 a.m. on the microphone. He's saying, hey, we're gonna have some ballots coming in. So these boxes of ballots were brought in by Mr. Baxter and his team at 4:30 a.m. from the rear of the room, the TCF Center. So approximately, I witnessed them bringing in boxes from the rear end of the room into the room. This is between 4:30 and 5. I estimate around 84 boxes placed on tables in the center of the room. Each box with approximately 600 ballots, totaling to approximately 50,000 ballots, equal to the 2 rounds before. Because we were there from 10 to 1, we did a round about 50,000, and then 1 to about 4, a second round about another 50,000, and then this last round, all you have to know is it was the same amount of ballots from the other 2 rounds. I'm not sure if they were all brought in from the back, because I think they were commingled and also brought in from other rooms. So I'm not sure how many ballots were brought from the back and then from the other areas, but they were put in all. It was just about the same amount. So most volunteers left at 5 a.m. and the poll workers had a shift change between 5 and 6 a.m. I stayed. At 6 a.m., Mr. Baxter and the management got back on the microphone and yelled, "This is what democracy is supposed to look like," in front of everyone with the new shift. Right after that, the whole room cheered, and you can tell that there was not a balancing in the poll workers there, even at that shift. Based off my sampling, because I was
1 minute.
okay, sampling off of the dozen of the duplicate ballots from 6 to 2 p.m. 2 p.m. the next day, none of those were for Trump. The other 2 rounds, I only saw 1 for Trump. 3 other challengers told me they witnessed the same sampling. I challenged ballots, all refused. Challenging procedure never properly carried out. Never issued challenge ballots, no track or remedy, no record. I resorted to writing incident reports. Poll workers changed duplicate ballots to straight Democrat tickets. That's why you see in the tabulators 2 different tickets. I witnessed employees filling in bubbles for the Democrat straight ticket. And so at the tabulator, I also witnessed what the Dominion employee said with the rerunning of the ballots. I saw that several times. At 2 p.m., I left the room for 5 minutes. Right after I left the room, they blocked it out, covered the windows up. I couldn't get back in for exceeded COVID capacity. I called the federal prosecutor. I called the FBI, made a report. I called the Secretary of State fraud tip line. I called Detroit Department of Elections multiple times, and there was no answer.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I have a quick question. When it comes to the duplicate ballots that you were in the middle of the room watching, those are blank ballots for the purpose of refilling out when necessary?
Yeah.
And so you were solely in charge of watching those?
There's a few of us, but there's too many tables, so when people would come and grab ballots, and for example, if there was like a coffee stain or something, which I never saw that night, they all looked like clean ballots, we would follow them back, and there would be several people in line waiting to follow that person back. And so once that process was done, I would come back to the center table and wait for the next person to come in.
What's your recollection, with the group of ballots that came in at 4:30 and you stayed and began observing, and you say that, there was almost every one of them or all of them were for Mr. Biden. About how many ballots would you say you observed at that point?
That shift, probably my sampling is over a dozen of duplicate ballots. And also we had some issues where we were making duplicates of the duplicate ballots. And when I asked the employees why we were making duplicates of duplicates, they confirmed to me that this is a duplicate of duplicate, but the tabulator said unknown reasons.
So they were throwing away their first duplicate to replace it with a second one was what was, okay, but so you're saying you observed several dozen ballots in that time?
That one shift from the 6 a.m. to 2 p.m.,
Yeah.
I sampled about a dozen duplicate ballots, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. Vice Chair Lucido.
I appreciate you coming out, and I appreciate everybody being so patient to go through this process. At the end, your testimony has been submitted to us by way of written, or is there affidavit?
Yes, affidavit is submitted.
Perfect. These ballots that were brought in the middle of the night, early morning, whatever you want to call it, where did you see this go to? I'm looking at these numbers here, 84 boxes, 600 each in each box, over 50,000 ballots. Where did these ballots go?
They were just processed just like any other round. So they brought in from the back, which,
In sleeves, again,
Yeah, so-
mail sleeves? What I mean by that, you know what I'm talking about, the
yeah,
mail
banker
boxes.
boxes with sleeves over the banker boxes. The sleeves were removed. They opened up the lids and they placed them on about 10-foot tables.
Yep.
There's about 7 of them, and they placed about maybe like a dozen boxes per table, 10-foot tables. Banker boxes pulled, with the width, so they can place them out, and the ballots are facing towards you. And they were double stacked, filled to the top. Each bundle is about 50 ballots.
Got it.
So maybe like 150, 300 stacked on top, each box.
Did they, after they put them on these 10-foot tables, were workers taking the ballots and then putting them into the machine?
Yeah, so that's when Mr. Baxter said, this is what democracy is supposed to look like. Then they came in and took the ballots, the employees took the ballots, took them back to their processing tables, and everyone just did it at once. And most of the Republican workers were gone at that time.
50,000 roughly, right?
It was the same exact amount as the 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. round and the 1 a.m. round to 4 a.m. round.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Did you see anything else after that period of time? Did you stay on? You stayed on till in the morning hours?
I stayed in until I was kicked out. They said, you can leave the room for a snack. I left the room for a snack, and immediately they closed it down.
What
And
time was that?
Around 2 p.m.
Okay. So you were there 4 o'clock in the morning all the way?
Yeah, the whole shift.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you very much.
no problem.
Did you or anyone you know ask where the origin of the late-night ballot delivery was? What precincts it came from?
I did not ask. However, the person right next to me grabbed me by the, pulled me to the side and said, I see a truck at the loading dock coming in the back of the TCF center. And by the time I looked, Mr. Baxter and his management team were personally holding in boxes and carrying them in to the tables.
Senator Tice.
The other deliveries, they didn't come in this way?
No, this delivery was unlike every other that I witnessed from the other 2 rounds, yeah.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, thank you very much for your testimony.
No problem.
Next, I have